We are back with the Kilo Talk podcast. I have to apologize to everyone we missed last week. I was at the beach and Nick was doing a little bit of traveling. So we thought about doing a show. We never really got back around to it. But we got a great guest lined up this week. We should have a great episode for all you guys. So our guest this week is Jaden Lacaria. Jaden, why don't you kick us off by go ahead and telling everyone a little bit about yourself?
My name is Jaden Lacaria. I compete in powerlifting. Also, I dabble with bodybuilding a little bit as well. I competed in classic raw and also multi-ply divisions. So I kind of have experience in both fields. Also, I go to school at Ohio State. My major is physical activity and coaching specialization. I've been here at Ohio State for about a year and a half. Beforehand, I was at West Virginia University, and my major was athletic coaching education. I was there for about a year and a half as well. I've been powerlifting for probably a total of 2.5 years so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. And where we kind of met Jaden was he was a initial member of one of the first couple of years of the West Virginia Powerlifting Club when we first started kicking it off. And he kind of was part of the club before he transferred to Ohio State. And we've kind of stayed in touch with him ever since. Why don't you go ahead and tell everyone what's your so you did a little multiply and classic raw. What are your meet PRs? And then you were telling us a little bit before the show kind of what your goals moving forward. Why don't you go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about that?
All right, so my weight class I compete at is 198 pound weight class, so 90 kg. My best meet PRs is a 727 pound squat, a 402 pound bench, and a 677 pound deadlift. My upcoming meet right now is at Empower Gym in Dayton, Ohio. I'm currently sitting 6 weeks out from that meet. Everything's going great so far. My goals going into this meet is to take the all-time RAP total at 198, which is 2040, so 2,040 pounds. And also take the all-time squat record, which is 865 pounds. So those are two huge goals of mine. I definitely feel like they're attainable and everything's going as planned, so I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, you currently do hold the all-time unofficial world record for squat. I believe you set it at like an exhibition. That was supposed to be the cage at the Arnold, but obviously that didn't happen.
Yeah, I went 5 pounds over the all-time world record. Unfortunately, of course, it was unsanctioned, so none of it counted, but just accomplishing that was pretty awesome. My body weight was literally what it'd be on meet day, so I literally weighed it. I woke up 198, so I was sitting right there, pretty much like it would be at a meet.
That's awesome. Obviously, it's not the cage in the Arnold, but that you had the opportunity. The exhibition happened at Joe Sullivan's gym, and there seemed like a great crowd there with a lot of strong lifters. How was the atmosphere when you went and took that squat?
That's pretty awesome. Of course, everyone who was in town already for the Arnold or booked hotels or whatever flew in. They just went ahead and came out and decided just to come check the gym out and see what was going on. They had like a little booth set up for Live Large, animal, hybrid, of course, for Steffi Kuhn and everybody, and then also Nick from Live Large. He brought pizza from Ohio Pie, so it was really nice. And then just having all the other top tier lifters in the world be there and see them do exhibition lifts as well was super interesting, and of course kind of set the tone for myself. Seeing, for example, Nick Ramey before me, he squatted 865 pounds and he totaled over 2,000 pounds within, I think it was like 5 minutes or something crazy. So seeing him lift, of course, fired me up, and also want to put on a good show as well.
Yeah, that's an awesome experience. Something not a whole lot of people can say they've done in the powerlifting world. So I guess we can jump into now. You're a very unique person, as you've actually spent some time at Westside Barbell. So Westside, of course, is the gym that kind of everyone for years has looked towards being kind of the best gym in the U.S., different things like that. And you were able to spend a lot of time training there. So we kind of just want to jump in there and just give us your overall experience. Like, what was it like to kind of train there, where a lot of people don't get that opportunity?
So my time at Westside was, I was there for about a whole year. It was really, really, really cool. So I ended up getting started there pretty much once I moved here to Columbus. I knew some people who kind of knew about me through powerlifting. I was kind of getting my name out there. I had a solid raw meet prior to moving here. And they asked me would I be interested in lifting and multiply. I was like, sure, I'll give it a try. So pretty much I got everything lined up. They told me, hey, be here, Wednesday, 7 a.m., bring your best bench with you. So I really, you hear all the stories and stuff, so I really didn't know what to expect going into it. So I kind of just showed up there, just ready for, give all I had. And so Wednesday there, of course, is max effort. So I went ahead and we just went ahead and benched, and we just worked up to a heavy. I worked up to a heavy single bench. It was I can't remember what it was. It was some type of band setup. And it went pretty well. And they kind of evaluate you for over an entire week and just put you through the workouts and see if you can hang and to see if the rest of the guys kind of like you and how you fit into the atmosphere there. And I was just there ready to put in work. I didn't care what they had me doing. I was going to give everything I had. And as the week went on, of course, you go. So the split there they go is Monday is max effort lower, Wednesday's max effort upper, and then Friday's dynamic lower, and Saturday's dynamic upper. So I just went through and followed each of their training days and just did whatever they told me, and then everything kind of worked out. But it was kind of neat just learning gear. When I first got there, I didn't know anything about it really. Of course, I seen guys back home lifting shirts, but that's about it really. So it was very unique. Trying to learn everything, but I can touch on more details about it if you want me to.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's a pretty good rundown, and we just kind of wanted to hear, because you hear all these things, like you're saying, going in about kind of what the training atmosphere and stuff is, and you don't really know kind of what's going on. It's almost like this mystical thing that no one truly knows about. So to have the opportunity for you to come in and you have the experience training there it's pretty cool to talk to you, and I could see how you fit well into that, because I mean I've known Jaden for since high school now. And I mean, I don't ever remember you missing a workout. So you got that work ethic, and I could see how you fit in very well. You go there and just give it everything you got, for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I guess one thing though I kind of want to touch on is you've moved on now to you train at Lexington Extreme there in Columbus as well. But what are some valuable lessons you think you can kind of you carried over when you made the gym switch from your time at Westside?
So the biggest, I say the biggest takeaway from Westside that helped me. So I say there's a handful of things, but the first things being just, of course, just the wisdom I was able to take away from the older guys who've been there for a while and just been in the sport. One guy I look up to a lot in particular, and I still do, and me and him are actually pretty good friends currently. Is Chuck Vogelpohl. I've looked up to him ever since I started powerlifting, and he really kind of took me under his wing when I first got there, and once I kind of showed him I was willing to work hard. And he just really helped me every day, showed me all kinds of cool things in the gym. Just was really able to tell me some of his past experiences and things I should think about changing in my lifting or fixing or whatever it may be. He just had a lot of really cool tips, and he still does. He comes to Lexington every Sunday, so I saw him earlier today, and we'll just talk about lifting or whatever I'm doing or what I should fix or just advice. And then same thing for Louie. Of course, Louie, he's full of knowledge. The guy he just knows so much stuff. Obviously, as he's gotten older, his training has kind of changed some from the original Westside conjugate method. A little bit, he's added some stuff into it, took some things away. So being able to pick up on his knowledge has just changed, and things that he thinks you should try or don't try is really cool, because you might have a weakness you might not even know about while you're missing the lift, and he can point it out within 15 minutes of just watching you warm up. He's like, you're not doing this right, you're not doing that right, that's why you're missing. So being able, having those people around and just point out your weak points is, it's the biggest thing, because it's stuff you don't even notice. And I was doing exercises and accessory movements that sucked. When I first got there, man, they had me doing, Lou had me doing so many good mornings. It was just banded good mornings, or good mornings with the Mars bar, safety squat bar, just all kinds of stuff like that. Also a lot of inverse leg curls. I was really weak on those. I could barely do a plate and a quarter on there. And now I got to the point I could do no weight, so I could literally just do inverse leg curls without any weight. And reverse hypers, of course, having to do a lot of those. It's just neat stuff like that, things you kind of just don't, realize that you might need.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess it's like kind of talked about the conjugate method there. It's another thing that's kind of going by the wayside here in a lot of years. I think a lot of it is people don't really understand exactly how it completely works. Do you think conjugate is a viable method for maybe just any intermediate lifter out there, or should they stay to something maybe a little bit different?
So this is what I think about that is pretty much a lot of people, like you said, they don't really understand it, and just being there in person and going through the experience, straight up how conjugate's supposed to be ran. If you're starting out, I think you probably shouldn't follow it, exactly, just because I just think that max effort, on especially like on a Monday or Wednesday for lower or upper, if you're just now starting to lift weights, that could be a lot. And I think that for a beginner, you definitely should be able to build a foundation to do a lot more hypertrophy and just really learn the basics of lifting. If you're in an intermediate lifter and you still have some solid strength, I think you can give it a shot. Just for what I would change is the on your max effort day. So let's say you're doing max effort lower, and let's say this setup for Monday. Let's say we're doing 150 pounds of band tension on deadlift off a 2-inch deficit, conventional. So instead of doing a max single like they do primarily now on max effort days, we'll go to a top triple because I think you'll be able to gauge your strength a little bit, and you're not going to run yourself into the ground. Same goes for squats. If you're squatting, work up to a top triple, or maybe like 1 or 2 top sets of 2 or 3. And then for dynamic days, so like when I was there, a lot of our dynamic days for dynamic lower were like 90+% with I don't know, let's say I think it was, so I know every time it'd be 350 pounds of band tension, and let's say you had 500 pounds of straight weight. So it's just usually it's always 90+% of your projected 1 rep max in a suit. So that's what we pretty much would base it off of. But the thing is, I wouldn't say go 90+%. I would say treat it like how we treated our dynamic upper days, which we would only go 65-70% for 9 sets of 3, which I think can be more valuable for dynamic lower, because our dynamic lower days are going into 5x5. So yeah. I don't think you should do that with that high numbers. Definitely go more along the lines like 8 sets of 2 or something like that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. That's very interesting. Nick, do you have anything to add to kind of Westside talk?
No, not right now. I'm aware of what conjugate is, but I'm one of those that just doesn't really understand it at all. I've competed completely raw my entire life, so I've never gotten to wraps. I've never gotten to like a shirt or a suit or anything like that. So, this is all just new to me as well.
It's interesting you say that, because Jaden and I, both being from Parkersburg, it's the bench-only capital of the world. It has to be. But it's funny because I kind of grew up training, same thing with probably you at the Y. I go JWs, and we'd be back and forth different gyms. You see a lot of the older guys training like a conjugate style, but it's literally only upper body. But I think I was able to be around it, so I do understand parts of it. Kind of like Dennis McLaughlin, JW, all those guys would train a conjugate method for their bench press. So I think I have a better understanding of it than most, because it's kind of like you, Nick. You going in, you don't understand at all because you've never been around it. So it's hard to even see how that works, from especially the type of training you've done, which has been very great for you for the last 3 years now when you're with TSA.
Right. Yeah.
Two different things. So it's kind of hard to wrap your head around that.
Yeah. I mean, I watched like the Westside versus the World documentary, and that kind of shed a lot of light on like kind of the secrecy of Westside. And I think what a lot of people don't realize, and Jaden, obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but like those people, like they bring a certain type of tenacity into their training that not a lot of people have, and that's why they're successful. Like they're willing to work their ass off in ways that not a lot of people are willing to do.
Yeah, and the way that's depicted, I mean, that's 100% true. Like, I remember I'd go in there, I see guys, of course, get hurt, injured. They literally, take a knee wrap and tie it around their leg if they had to. Like, they would do whatever they literally had to do to continue their workout, which, I mean, it might not be the smartest thing because you can make the injury worse, but, I mean, the level of everything you got no matter what is there. Because the thing is, just being there, you want to perform well because it's a standard. You want to live up to that standard, and you don't want to slack off at all, because there's so much respect for Lou. Like, I really can't explain relationship like with Lou, because yeah, he might tick you off and you think he hates you and you can't stand him, for example, and then the next day, like, you guys, like, he's fine, he like really thinks you're awesome or something like that. And the thing is also, like, yeah, he's really hard on you, but at the end of the day, he would do anything for you. So, like, let's say you're going through a hard time, you need money or something, or you got hurt. I mean, he would really make sure you're okay at the end of the day. And that's why I think a lot of guys, you see guys come and go. I mean, I saw a lot of people leave there and come like back and forth, but I think it's just the relationship you build with Lou and then everyone within the gym, and just bringing that intensity. That's one thing I really thrived on when I was there. Is let's say we're all deadlifting, say you're doing max effort, and we got like 8 or 9 guys, like, all just going all out, and then you just kind of feed off the energy. Like, it'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, and actually, we talk a lot about collegiate powerlifting kind of this podcast, and I think that's something that we could kind of wrap around to that I think is missing with a lot of our clubs. I mean, Jaden, you spent some time with West Virginia University Powerlifting Club. There's not a whole lot of times you really have that intensity. I think it misses. I think a lot of groups of people in the powerlifting world are missing that because they're too busy being focused on maybe the scientific principles or what one coach says versus another coach, or, oh, I can't push it because I don't want to get injured at all. So I think that attitude could be brought into more training atmospheres nowadays, that group setting of everyone focused on one lift, getting after it, that could really be beneficial to any club or group of lifters.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing, is like at Lexington on Sundays, we'll have everyone squatting pretty much for the most part. We're deadlifting, and I think the best thing to make progress is just getting plugged into a solid crew. I mean, even if you're just, you might not, let's say it's a crew you get in and they're not super strong, but as long as they have a work ethic and drive, that's all that matters at the end of the day. Because I mean, like, obviously when like you first start off, you're not going to be really strong. Or when I got to Westside, I remember I started working in, Lou threw me in with guys who were way stronger than me, like deadlifting 800, 900 pounds, and I was over here pulling at the time like barely over 600, and I was like, holy cow, like, these guys are gonna crush me. Same thing on bench. Like, I used to bench with JP Carroll a lot, and he benches over 600 pounds raw, and all the other guys benching were all 500 plus pound benchers raw. So when I was benching with them, it was like, man, these guys are super strong, and I'd always push it. But the biggest thing is that I'm grateful for is, yeah, they were way stronger than me, but they took the time to help me and teach and show me what I need to work on. So I mean, if you can find a group of guys who are stronger than you to push you, I mean, that's the key right there.
Yeah, definitely. So now that you've transitioned back to Classic Raw and you've been training in Lexington, do you think you'll ever go back to multiply, or do you think you're going to stick to the raw lifting from now on?
I mean, I always every day at the gym, we always joke about it, and of course, looking up at the board at Lexington, I mean, it's really strong as well. I mean, there's a lot of names that were at Westside that were at Lexington. So you see all the big names on multiply at Lexington, and I see the numbers up there. So it would always be cool to be on the multiply side of the board, because we have 2 boards. So I made it to the raw side, obviously, but I don't know. I think about it all the time because I don't like how I performed on multiply. I went like my last multiply knee. I went like 3 for 9, and I ended up getting a pro total still, but it was nothing to what I was able to, I knew I could do. But I think being able to be at Lexington, I'm able to learn the gear a lot better now and take more time. And there's a lot more patience, and there's no pressure really. So it's a possibility. I still have all my stuff, and there's still a bunch of top gear lifters who come to Lexington. So I always think about it every now and then. But maybe one day I'll get back into it. But I definitely want to be able to, take the records I won in Classic Raw and just go from there.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I actually find myself my background being kind of JWs, where we did a lot of single ply benching. I've for the last couple of years I've bounced around my head, maybe jumping into a squat and deadlift suit to just give it a try. I mean, why not? It'd be something different. So I've thought about it. It's kind of interesting to hear you talk about. It might be something I might look to do in the future. How hard do you find it to jump back and forth? So actually, like, how long did it take you to learn the suit? And then when you went from the suit back to a raw squat, did you have trouble with that transition at all?
Yeah, so that was a really big transition. So that's kind of like the problem I also ran into at Westside. I wanted to lift raw because I was getting a lot stronger in gear, but I knew my raw numbers were going up as well. So, and I knew like I was what I was capable of. I was capable of being able to push my numbers, to the top. I felt like sometime middle of last year, like in classic raw at least, and I was like, well, I want to be able to give this a real shot. And at the time, there were a couple guys at Westside who did lift raw, so I was like, well, maybe Lou wouldn't care. So I started training raw a little bit more, which we do train raw for bench at least a good bit, and sometimes on deadlift or accessory stuff for squat. But like I squatted in wraps, and I ended up squatting. I was like 710 for a double, and I hadn't took a free squat in forever, and it felt so weird because I lost like the stretch reflex out of the bottom. So because that box isn't there, you don't have briefs, so like they're locking up on your hips. So it's definitely really really weird, but um, I mean, being able to, it's just really just taking your time, learn everything again. I mean, I literally had to learn how to re-squat. And that's like this leads into like why I ended up leaving Westside. Obviously, is because there's nothing between me and Lou. Like he's still, me and him are fine. The thing was, he wanted me to lift in gear there. He said it was like kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. He's like, that's just how we are here. He's like, it's nothing personal. And then of course also some of the sponsors I have wasn't too happy about. So because of course the gym has a Enzor sponsorship, so something that kind of was conflicting with that, but
Okay.
it is what it is.
Yeah. So real quick, why don't you let everyone know who you are sponsored by?
All right,
Just
so
you mentioned it real quick.
All right, so the sponsors I currently have are Mark Bell Slingshot. I just signed a contract with Riderwear about 2 months ago, and then also Skull Smash Ammonia.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's crazy, and that's what, just for people who don't know Jaden very well. We'll talk about social media at the end of this episode. Go check him out. He's got some cool content, and he's definitely training at the most elite level. So if you haven't seen him, make sure to go check him out. So next thing we're going to dive into, we're going to get into a more serious topic, and there's a lot going on in the world right now, and this is something as a podcast we want to touch on because here at the Kilo Top Podcast, we take a strong stance against police brutality. And we are 100%. We stand 100% with the Black Lives Matter movement, and we believe that there's no place for racism in America whatsoever. And we had the opportunity to have Jaden on. This was planned well before all this happened, but Jaden is a major figure in the powerlifting scene, and he's also someone that is taking a huge stance against it on his social media. He's been out in the protest here in Columbus, so we thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of bring this up. Say our stance on it as a podcast and really dive into what's going on here and hear kind of Jaden and Nick and I's thoughts. So either one of you guys want to kick it off?
So pretty much like my opinion on it, obviously, is that what's going on is wrong. I feel really weird about it, but so. What I think, unless you don't live in a bigger city or you're really not out in the streets to see it for yourself, I think the way that, of course, the media is kind of showing everything is wrong. Because if you turn CNN on or Fox News or whatever you watch, you're gonna see they're gonna talk about, oh my goodness, the looters, they're out here stealing stuff, they're out here causing problems, the protesters, so they're trying to make the protesters seem like they're the problem, like they're the looters. And then you see everyone who lives in these really small towns just kind of post stuff and say like, oh, this what's going on is wrong, all lives matter and all this stuff, which, okay, I understand yes, absolutely, all lives do matter, everyone matters, but that's not the problem right now. The problem is you have the black community continue to suffer and be oppressed like they have been for 400 years, and it's continued to happen and nothing is being done. So I mean, they have to fix the problem at hand. And the thing is, it's just I don't understand why it's been so controversial for so many people to really try to grasp the concept. But I think this is what I think, it's like they're not directly affected, so that they don't really understand. And I don't expect people to understand because they're never gonna be able to walk in my shoes or someone else's shoes who's been affected directly or how it affects their day-to-day life. Like, for me getting pulled over, I've had bad experiences. And I've also just been stereotyped just because of the color of my skin. So there's people who are never going to have to experience that, so they don't understand. They're not going to be able to kind of get the whole feeling of what it's like to live in this country and deal with stuff like that.
No, I completely agree, and like you're saying, I don't know what you or anyone in the anyone that might go through. But what I can do is I can listen. I can listen to what my friends, what they need, what their needs are. If they need me to post something on social media to get the point across, because you're right, this is not it's turned into too much of a political issue, and it's not a political issue. It's a right and wrong, and there is a wrong, and what is going on right now is wrong. It needs to be changed. So the best thing I can do is listen and see what anyone needs and what the best thing I can do to help. And that's truly what I believe. Like I said, racism does not have a place in America, and it needs to be stopped.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
I mean, just to add on to that, I think Jaden kind of said this too. Like, it's a really weird time right now, or maybe it was Wes, but it's a really weird time in our country's history right now, and it's frustrating to see to say the least, that in 2020, when, and this is going to sound so cliche, but like right now, as we act as a society, as we kind of expand as a society in the way like America is right now, like we still have to deal with this. And it's really kind of disheartening to see that, like you said, the media portrays this whole situation in different ways, but the one constant is everyone is focusing on the rioters, the looters, and wrongly equating them to people who want actual change. Because when stuff like this happens, people are going to take advantage of it. They're going to be dumb, and they're going to say like, oh, cool, this is an excuse for me to do really dumb shit, and there's no consequences for it. But obviously that's not true, and that, in my opinion, it takes away a lot of the strength of your message. And I mean, I'm a person of color, but obviously like it's just kind of a different thing right now for me, because for some reason African Americans are profiled unfairly, more so than other races. So kind of where I stand on this is, like, social media posts are cool and everything, saying that you can be there is cool and everything, but complacency or just staying back and not getting out there is probably the worst thing to do at this time. Just because right now, like, there's so much momentum in this movement going that the best thing to do for anyone is to take action, actively do something about it, use whatever platform they have to spread the message, let their thoughts be known. And that's why we decided to do the show today, because even though we don't have a massive following, if we can reach through to one person or two people or just a handful of people in general, I think that'd be a very good thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. And if anyone has an argument against that, we don't really care if you listen to our show. So it's just that simple. One thing we kind of want to jump back into the powerlifting side of this, and this is something kind of Nick mentioned me that we want to talk about, to kind of how this relates. I have to say, I think as a whole, the powerlifting culture, we spoke about this multiple times, is very accepting of everyone, but that's not the case for everyone. We've seen a lot of different issues with gear companies and things come out and say very inappropriate statements through all this. What's your guys' kind of opinion on how this relates to the powerlifting community?
So, the thing is, like, in powerlifting, I'm glad finally, like, USPA came out and said some stuff. A couple other federations. Also, just banning, of course, Metal Gear, like you saw the whole situation with that. Like Elite FTS, they dropped the company from carrying their products. So, of course, them taking action and doing what's right, it definitely means a lot, and it shows that people do care and people are willing to deal with stuff like that, because that's, while there shouldn't be, there's zero tolerance for that stuff, and it should be like that across, all boards. That shouldn't be something that's debatable or nothing, just get rid of it. So I think, the sport of powerlifting, there's just so many people from different backgrounds, different cultures, ethnic groups. And, of course, the Black community is very involved in the sport of powerlifting. And I just think being able to support the movement is great, because at the end of the day, like you said, what's going on is wrong and it needs to be fixed. And it's not going to take just one or two people in the sport or something, stepping up, but it's going to take everybody, some way to get involved, like you said, some way to make your voice heard, whether that's going out there and protesting, whether that's donating money, sitting down, like having conversations with your family, whatever you need to do to make a positive impact. That's all that matters. Just to reach as many people as you can in a positive way and show what's going on needs to change. Because until there's this protest, like for example, these protests can keep going on in certain places, but if it's not going on everywhere. Like for example, I've been out here almost every day in Columbus since the protests have started. And this definitely like died down a lot. Like when I was the first few days, the first week, there were thousands and thousands of people out there. Like it was insane. But now it's just like maybe 100 or a couple hundred at that, and it's just not as deep. And the thing is, yeah, that's just going to go away, and this problem is just going to keep going on. More innocent people are going to be killed. You really got to sit down and reform, the judicial system and police practices. You got to really sit down and fix those because those are the problems that's going on. And I think, I'm not, like I said, there's all cops aren't bad. I know some officers who are some great guys, and they've even discussed with me about how there's crooked officers on their in their police department, and they try to get them to do crooked things as well. And until all those people are able to be taken off their job and cut loose or put in jail for doing something wrong, this is going to keep going on because the thing is if they pull, let's say they pull a white person over, they're going to look at them differently as if they pull someone who's black over a Mexican, for example. Someone of color, they're going to look at them differently. They feel like they kind of almost, they don't value them the same, so they talk to them differently. Like you can watch, for example, I saw an officer talking how he's seen guys they'll pull over someone, like pull over a white guy. Oh, hey, I pulled you over for speeding. Can I see your license and registration? Or they pull a black guy over, walk to the car. I need you to step out of the vehicle. Oh, wait, yeah, so what'd you pull me over for? Doesn't matter. Get out of the car. Just something like that. They think they can talk to you like that, and that you're not able to do anything about it. You know what I mean? I've never personally been like addressed that way, but I've seen it happen before, and I've seen officers who've talked to me about them seeing it as well, which is wrong. You shouldn't talk to anyone differently because of the color of their skin. It's ridiculous.
100%, yes.
So going back to, sorry, were you about to say something?
No, go ahead, Nick.
So something that I hear a lot is like, oh, there's good cops, and that is probably, and this is probably like one of the hardest things to ever hear me make, like on the history of this podcast, like even if we do this for the next 10 years, I think that statement is complete bullshit because it sidetracks the problem entirely, right?
Yeah.
So the one best like kind of example I heard is like, let's say you go to the doctor, you get operated on, doctor is a complete moron and should not be practicing medicine, kills you. That doctor would have to lose his like accreditation, get sued for malpractice, and will just be removed and will never operate on someone ever again. But you don't hear people say, oh, most doctors are good. Yeah, whatever. Like, there's going to be a bad few. Like, you don't hear that, which is mind-boggling to me. Because if you really break it down on a societal level, doctors and police officers almost serve the same role, and that is to serve the public and to protect them in different ways, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But that false equivalency just absolutely boggles my mind because at the end of the day, people are dying.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you're treating two different groups of people like completely differently. And it goes for the whole like all lives matter thing. Yeah, obviously all lives matter, right? But bro, that's not the fucking point.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have a big problem when I hear that statement because like I said, what everyone's trying to do is bring light to a major problem in our country. Something that, like I said, needs to be fixed. And like, okay, whatever. You can say what you want about all lives matter, but there's a certain portion of our citizens that are being wrongly murdered by by police officers. I mean, all the time, and that's wrong. It needs to be fixed, and that is where the focus of all our attention needs to be. And that's why I 100% support any movement going on right now, and I want to do anything I can as a podcast and me personally to help support it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Nick touched back on what Nick was saying about the police officers. So, for example, like my buddy Cliff, he's a powerlifter as well. He does some WWE wrestling, boxing, stuff like that. He's a police officer, and he kind of like he's been doing it for about, I don't know, I think a little bit over a year, maybe a couple years. And and he's black as well. And the thing is, it's just such a difficult time for him, and a lot of people have asked him how he feels about it. So he's been able to have a little rally and start some protest in Virginia, and it's just like he was telling me, it's really hard because he tries to do this as much as he can for his community and give back to the kids, and he doesn't want to be viewed as an enemy or as a problem. Yep. And the thing is, he's like, I've had guys who I've worked with in the past and stuff who have been a problem. And he said, I don't want to be labeled as that because that's not who I am. And I've known him for a while. He's came and trained me at Westside a couple of times. And I just think it's difficult because at the end of the day, those guys have to provide for their family, and that's their job. And I know a lot of those guys didn't sign up thinking they're getting into something like that. They genuinely probably wanted to help the community, and they just want to be a police officer. Maybe if that's something they've always wanted to do their whole life, or something they just got the ambition to take on. And it just it comes back where you're just in this really weird situation. And like to touch on another thing really quick, you see during football season. People always complain about people kneeling for the national anthem or stuff like that. And I was like, those same people who are complaining aren't saying anything right now. They're not making an effort to change what's going on, but they're going to complain come football season while they're sitting at home being quiet. So I'm like, why don't you make an effort, to change what's going on in America? I mean, there's a problem. And the thing is, too, like I have friends who've served in the military, who've been on multiple deployments, and they'll tell me, they're like, I didn't go into the military and fight for this country for injustice to be going on and American citizens to be treated this way. So then people kneeling for the national anthem doesn't bother me at all. And I just think it was pretty unique to hear that, of course, from people who've served in the military and fought for this country, and they've been through it all, and people who never done that at all are at home saying it's disrespectful for the troops. Well, here it is from troops who have served who aren't even black, and they're telling me how they feel. So it just goes to show, that's almost like a cop-out excuse people try to use just so they don't have to be involved or try to, help the movement.
Absolutely.
I completely agree. And I am a very patriotic person. I don't think for the slightest that's disrespecting our flag or the people in the military. So anyone that's saying that, it doesn't make sense. And there's part of a movement. We're bringing up a topic that needs to be discussed and needs to be fixed. And that's the whole reason why it's going on. So, well, we really just. You got something to say, Nick?
Oh yeah, this is a quick comment, but right now, like a lot of people are saying like, oh, we're patriotic, we respect the flag, we like support our troops, we support our servicemen, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But on a fundamental level, like this country was quite literally founded on like shaking up the status quo, right? Mm-hmm. So in my mind, like sitting at home being complacent and just saying, okay, it is what it is completely un-American, because the principles on which this country was founded was freedom of expression and freedom of speech, obviously, but it gives people a chance to make change in a systematic way, and to just blatantly shoot that down is like quite honestly disrespectful to the fundamentals or like the principles in like which this country was founded.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I know this is a little bit of a different part of the show than kind of what we're used to. We're usually all powerlifting, but this is something that needed to be talked about. And I had the opportunity that we planned to have Jaden on, and we really wanted to hear his voice. We see a lot of what he's putting out on social media. He's been a big part of this, and we wanted to make sure he had his opportunity to have his say for all our listeners on something that we truly believe in. So I guess one thing we can kind of wrap this up, Jaden, is if anyone out there, anyone that's listening, really wants to support the movement of the Black Lives Matter movement, what do you think the best way for them to do that is?
So for here in Columbus, for example, I've helped out a couple different organizations, a couple different people. So the best way to help out is really, of course, just continue to donate. Be able to just pay attention to all the GoFundMe's for the people who've lost their lives, their families, like of course George Floyd's family. Be able to pay for everything that they're going through. Of course, Breonna Taylor, trying to get justice for her. The cops that have killed her are still free, roaming free, and nothing's been done. There's so many different cases that are going on every single day. I open social media or I come across somewhere on the internet, there's another a person being shot and killed by the police, or something's going on. It's kind of crazy. So the best thing you can do, honestly, just look at your community, like help out in your community, because that's where it all starts. You can donate to these bigger organizations and just be able to help them as well, which that's great. But you got to sit down and talk to people who run the chief of police in your community. Sit down and talk to them, and just go from there, because it just all starts where you're from, within your community, and getting across to those people. Because if you can make a difference there, that's going to carry on to the next country, or the next state, or the next city, and so on and so forth. So just being able to reach small groups of people and carry on. It might not even take money. It just might take your presence and your action and your words.
Yep. And that's a great point, because as a powerlifting community, we've always been a community that's very, very together, very tight knit. Doesn't matter where you came from, your culture, your background, anything like that. We care about one another. So this is important. As our community, we need to stick up and stand up for what we believe in and do it together. There's no room for racism in the powerlifting community, and we can do this together, and we can help make a difference. So, well, Jaden, it's been a great episode, and we're really glad that we had the opportunity to have you on and talk to you. Maybe you can jump back on again here sometime in the future. But why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on social media?
So, you can find me on Instagram. It's just my name, so at Jaden Lacaria, Jaden. Then my last name, Lacaria. Then my YouTube is the same thing. It's my name, Jaden Lacaria, and then my Facebook is the same thing as well. So I post on all those platforms. I try to keep everyone up to date with my training, just things that are going on in my life, and just whatever I find interesting that I kind of want to share with everyone. So I appreciate everyone to check me out. I'm in prep for a competition, so I got some heavier lifts coming up, and I just want to help as many people as I can. So if you have any questions related to training, nutrition, or whatever, I'll definitely get back to you guys. I get a good bit of DMs every day, so I just try to help as much as I can. So don't feel like you're bothering me at all. Just shoot me a message.
Yeah, definitely. I want to point out Jaden's one of the most helpful guys I've ever met. Been training with him for years, and he'll help you out no matter what. So reach out to him if you have any questions or whatnot. But Nick, why don't you go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you on social media?
You can find me on Instagram at notasquid99. And obviously on our podcast page.
Yep, and you can find me at WesMcKnight7 on Instagram. Again, follow our podcast page, and we have a YouTube now. There's not much on it yet, but we got, I think, 4 episodes up now. The Kilo Talk podcast. It's just with our logo and just play. So if you want to listen to us on YouTube, you'll have that opportunity. We'll start posting the podcast Wednesday mornings on there, just like everywhere else. And then we're also going to do a training. How do you want to explain this, Nick?
I guess it's just a training series. Wes and I are prepping for a meet right now, and just to kind of keep track of our own progress, we are going to post it to YouTube and just have some fun with it.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a little bit about it, and we'll answer some questions and whatnot. But all right, thank you everyone for listening. Again, Jaden, thank you for coming on the show today. It's been a great show.
Oh, no problem. I appreciate you for having me.
Yep, and we'll see you guys next week.